Hey guys, Buzz Glover here. Thought I would roll out a few new videos for those of you who are interested in getting started as a business loan broker. As probably many of you know who have been following me, I have been in that type of business for about probably 20 of the last 30 years of my professional life. Actually got into it and out of it based on some of the success. I was able to start a couple other businesses from the money that I made on business loan brokering, and came back into it in 2015. And then in 2016, I started the BizLoanConsultants.com website because I felt that some of the training out there just wasn't doing the business justice. So one of the reasons that people like the business, one of the reasons that I have always come back to it, and out of all the businesses I own, I kind of put that on the top of the list, is because it has the lowest cost startup. There's very little money you need to invest to get started in the business, and it has among the highest returns, especially if you experience any success in the business. So with that said, the reason that I created this 4-video series was to kind of take what I've been teaching all along and to put it into steps and to create what I call a success path. So if you see up behind me the backdrop, I created what I call the success path, and I broke down the business into 50 steps. And believe it or not, it came out to just about 50. Now, my guess is that as time goes on, I might have to add a few steps that I might have forgotten about, but this is pretty good start to taking you step by step on what you need to do to get in the business. Now, what I'm going to do is use my little virtual whiteboard here and show you what I'm going to cover in the next 4 videos, and then kind of start today's training with just one part of that. So this is the success path in a whole. So if you take a look, I'm going to use my little Apple pen here. What I've done is I've kind of broken this whole success path down into 4 videos. The first video being right here, kind of getting the right mindset and getting the foundational things taken care of when you first start your business so you're successful. The second part of it is kind of the marketing and packaging part. So this is number 1 down here, my first video. My second video is going to be up here, where I take you through how do you find deals, and then once you find them, how do you package them. And then the third video is going to be these last 2 areas. Number 3 is going to be how to, once you find a deal, how do you know what bank to take it to, what funding source, what makes sense, how to kind of get established with funding sources, and how to kind of shop the deal without kind of, for lack of a better word, pissing off a bunch of banks. And then the last thing I have up here is a home run. What after you're kind of getting in the swing of things within this business, how do you hit a home run? How do you take your business from here to here? One thing that I always talk about this business is that it's the only business that I own that kind of, first of all, gave me a great income with very little investment. But beyond that, it is somewhat of a lifestyle business. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times once you have your pipeline full and you're working on deals, there's a lot of waiting. I mean, you send a package out to a bank. The bank, depending on how big the deal is, spends some time looking at it. So it's not like, you're running and gunning all day long. Although in the beginning, when you're trying to fill that pipeline, there's a lot of hard work. Let's just get started into today's first video. And what I'm going to call that is the mindset, the foundation, and the education that you need to get started within the business. So let me blow that up again here. And be honest with you, in my mind, I was thinking I didn't want to have any fluff in this training. I didn't want anything that didn't really, if it wouldn't add value to you getting started in the business, I didn't want to put it in here. So I was kind of contemplating whether these first 3 items in the mindset, whether I wanted to put them in. And then I started thinking about it, and really it is key, and it's a core of the business on having the right mindset when you get started. One is my first step here, and I'm not going to go through each one of these in detail because I think that there's additional training that would be needed. But one is to commit to a change in your life. There's a good chance if you're sitting here watching this video, you're not happy. I mean, you could be either happy with your income and not happy with what you need to do on a daily basis to achieve that income, or you could be not happy with your income and you kind of like what you're doing, or you could just be dissatisfied with both, or maybe you don't have work at all. But there's some reason that you're here, and at some point, no matter if it's starting a business loan brokerage or it's getting started in some other business, you're going to have to commit to a change in your life. I think that everybody at some level, and I don't know if the word is hit rock bottom, but you got to get to a point within your life that says, hey, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to make some changes, and I'm going to commit to some changes. So that's my number one thing. And one other thing, let me back up here. What I did with this, which is kind of nice, was let me erase all that. I kind of created a key and a legend for this little game that I created, the success path game. One is in these blocks, I put whether this is something you have to do on an ongoing basis once you get started, whether you can just do it once and get it done and get it out of the way. And then the third thing is I put a little money symbol here, whether there's investment required. And then the other thing is I kind of took my opinion. Some people might vary in their opinions on what's challenging in this business and what's not. But the things that I see as being hurdles and getting started and more challenging when you're first getting started, I kind of color-coded each one of these blocks. So I probably should have went through this key or legend first, but we'll just back off and go back to, let me hit erase all and go back to number one, committing to a change in your life. And, it's recurring. You always got to keep that commitment going. One of the problems with a low-cost startup like this is that because you don't have so much money invested in it, you're less likely, or you're more likely to give up on it early. If you're writing checks, which I've done, anyone who's followed some of the other videos knows that I've owned car washes and I've owned a number of other businesses that require writing big checks in the beginning. When you're writing $40,000, $50,000 checks to get started in a business, even sometimes higher than that, you're much more likely to have the stick-to-it type attitude. In this business, even though it has really good returns on the commission side, it's easy to give up because you haven't committed too much financial resources to it. So one is commit to a change in your life. Two, I just say, and some people, after they start a business, they kind of keep it close to the vest. I think you ought to go out and tell people that, hey, I started a commercial finance business today. Making that commitment to other friends and family will keep you accountable. And once you start saying that, it'll start helping your mindset in getting, to realizing that you're in business now. You started a commercial finance business and you're committed to it. The third one is committing to the success of your business, which might seem similar to the first, but it really isn't. It's basically saying, all right, I started this business. I know there's a lot of things I have to accomplish, and I want to commit to the business, and I want to get through it, and I want to finish. If you're following my 50 steps here, my success path, then more power to you. I think that if you do follow it and you do what needs to be done recurring as we get up into marketing and some of the other areas, that there's a real good chance that you'll be successful. Let me back off. State licensing. Oh, my pen's not working. Let me try that again. State licensing. Number 4. I get tons of questions on this. I do not have all the answers for every state. I know that most states don't have any requirements when it comes to commercial finance. So always, when you're checking with your state and the commerce departments within your state, always make sure that you ask about commercial. If you mention consumer finance or residential mortgages, then every state does have licensing requirements, because after 2008, probably even prior to 2008, licensing requirements were always made for consumer finance. There's a lot of rules and regulations in consumer finance. But with that said, I know there's a handful of states that do have state licensing for commercial brokers, commercial finance brokers as well. And that's another thing. Don't get commercial real estate brokerage confused with commercial finance brokerage, because they're completely different. And almost every state's going to require some type of license for commercial brokerage, maybe a commercial real estate. I'm guessing that most will, but most will not have any requirements for commercial finance. But please do check with your state about the licensing requirements. Okay, a couple like foundational things. Like you're going to start, one of the things you have to do right off the bat is name your business. And kind of keep in mind that I try to put these in some type of order that would make sense as far as timing, when you do what. But keep in mind there might be some overlap and some things might be switched back and forth. The first thing you're to do when you're going to do when you're naming your business is to do a domain search and just, put in the name that you're thinking of and see if a domain comes up. Even put in the name of the business with a .com. It's kind of the first idea. Now, I get into in some of my other training on how you name your business. In an ideal world, I like the name to kind of say what you do, but the reality of it is when you're first getting started, you are going to be kind of a generalist is the best way to put it. You're going to be possibly putting your toe in the water on different types of businesses. You'll learn that what I preach and what I teach is that eventually you kind of want to become known in certain niches. So in an ideal world, you would call it, Glover's crane financing or Glover's medical equipment financing. That's my opinion on it. But the reality is, starting out, I always say take imperfect action. Name your business. If you want to name it with your last name, great. If you have some other name in mind, that's fine. But the first thing you're to do is do a domain search, see if it exists. You're also going to have to go to your state's website. They'll typically have some way to look up fictitious names. Don't make a big deal out of it. Name your business, as I say in number 6. And then you're going to go out and get the hosting and get the domain registered, which means you're going to go out to like a GoDaddy. I actually use Bluehost, and I highly recommend it. I actually have some videos on how to start getting that set up. I don't want you to start building your website. I just want to make sure you get your name, create a name for your business, get the hosting account done, sign up, get the domain registered so you own it. And then file your business, going up to number 8 here, and I know that I'm kind of all over the place here, but number 8, file your business with the state and the IRS. Typically, you are going to just have to fill out a form. There are some services out there like LegalZoom and a few others. All LegalZoom is really doing is taking a lot of the application process away from you and making it easier for you. A lot of times you can go straight to your state and find out how do you register a new business within your state. Typically, there is some type of application fee. If you use LegalZoom, there's usually, I forget, so I think it's a little over $100 that they charge. I could be wrong on that. But it's not a whole lot of money. But what I'm telling you is to pick a name, get your website and domain name registered, get it filed with the state. You're going to have to open a business checking. And by the way, banks will not open a business checking unless you have a EIN number that you're registered with the IRS. So that's one of the reasons you do have to file your business with the IRS before you open a business checking account. I put that there's dollars involved in that. You just need the initial deposit for opening some type of account. Whatever their minimum requirement is, $50, $100, whatever it takes for that bank that you're registering with. Number 10, set up your office. Very simple. Typically, most of the items that you're going to require in your office, you're already going to own. A computer. I do recommend 8x8 for a voice over IP phone. I think they charge anywhere from like $30 to $40 a month, and they kind of give you a very robust business-like telephone system that you can, have voicemail and all you. I don't have it sitting here, but all you need is your handset for a voice over IP. I think I used I'm not sure it was, maybe it wasn't Plantronics, but I'll get that information to you. But you need a phone system. You need a computer, you need a printer, you're eventually going to need a scanner because occasionally you still, even in this digital age, you're still going to pick up financials that come in a hard copy form. Once again, don't make a big deal out of it. Just get your office set up. It's a half a day or a whole day kind of operation. Get it done, get it out of the way, and if you need to spend money on a desk or chair or anything like that, just do it, because in the overall cost of opening this, it's very small. Okay, let me shrink this down here. Okay, set up Vanity email. Right after you kind of get all these foundational things, you're going to have to start sending emails. I don't want you to use a Gmail account. I don't want you to use a Yahoo account or any other type of old John Smith at Gmail. That's not acceptable in this business. It's a great indicator that you're not serious about the business if you're trying to pick up referral sources and they see that it comes from a Gmail account. That Vanity email, if you're using Bluehost, I know they include it in email services. So, Buzz Glover, or mine actually, my real name's Scott, but Buzz is kind of been my nickname for years. But my email is sglover@BizLoanConsultants.com. That comes kind of along with what you pay for the hosting. So that's where you'd set that up, and I want you to kind of set that up early in the game. The last thing is I put start a free CRM. I was kind of wavering on which one to use, but I kind of settled in on HubSpot. HubSpot offers a free CRM, stands for customer relation management. I think that's what it stands for. But all it is a database for you to keep really just 3 different types of databases. The 3 databases that you're going to keep within a business loan brokerage is 1 are all your referral sources, 2 are all your funding sources. So that'd be, and you can kind of filter these when you're using HubSpot. And then the 3rd one is as you start getting deals into your pipeline, that will be your 3rd one. And actually HubSpot has, even in its free version, has a way to take the accounts that you're working on and put them into various places within your pipeline. This one I'm waiting for a credit application. This one's out for approval from a funding source. And I kind of have different steps in the pipeline that in additional trainings I'll show you. So with that said, that kind of takes care of the mindset and the foundational things. If you could probably, my feeling is you could get through all of these steps within a week, maybe even less than a week. You just, once again, take imperfect action, get it done, and you're on your way to start getting some fundings and start getting some decent commission checks. The next thing I have for this training, for this first in the 4 series of the Success Path training, is education. So, if you don't, I always say, I mean, I'm the son of a truck driver. I did go to college. I have a BS in communications. I do not have a finance degree. I got out of college and I immediately went into sales, advertising sales, believe it or not. And then I started selling mailing and shipping equipment, like little postage meters, and back in the day, one major company in it. I actually worked for the competitor of that company, made me a very good salesperson because I was always up against the gorilla in the industry. But my sales experience kind of transformed into, and I was actually recruited by a bank to go out and find referral sources for equipment finance deals. And that's kind of was my start into the business. And then after doing that for years, I started to get frustrated because a lot of the deals that I would bring in wouldn't get approved because of credit reasons. And by the way, that's one of the great reasons to start a business loan brokerage, is because I've heard as low as 40% of all bank applications get declined. I've heard as high as 60%. So there's a lot of room out there for people who want money to grow their business that just can't get it, and that's the space that you're going to play in. You don't want to play in the bottom of the bucket, like where the really terrible credits are, but there's going to be a lot of credits out there that one bank might approve and that another will not. And if you position yourself correctly, you'll do well. But getting back to my background, I was recruited by a bank. I was taught how to go out and find referral sources and why they should use me versus some other bank. A lot of the things I get into the training and that I'll get into, say, in the next video when I get into marketing. But even to this day, I don't consider myself a finance guy. I mean, I kind of know what I need to know about each area of the business. So in the second tier of my success path, I need you to learn as much as you can about each of the products. And I really focus on 5 products: equipment finance, which is where I've had most of my success; commercial real estate finance, which I've had some success. I just didn't focus on it as much. There's accounts receivable and factoring, which is a product that you can go out and sell. And what I recommend is knowing about those. And when you run into credits that make sense for those products, then you recommend them. But in the meantime, getting back, I always say focus in on one type of niche, but know a little bit about everything. And you got to do some research. I have some books, I'm not going to go grab them, of different resources that I've read, different books that I've read over the years. Keep in mind that I went into this business with a crash 3-week training course from a bank, and they brought me up to the speed on the finance and these various products that I could go out and promote for them. But I never considered myself a finance person. When you get back in, let's go to, say, number 14 in education. This is where you want to, in the beginning, you want to start considering different niches that you can get into. A lot of people come to me and say, hey, Buzz, what's a good niche? And it's so hard because the opportunities are endless out there. So there's a couple things that I look at when I'm looking at a niche, like, first of all, how big the ticket size is. If you're doing all like under $10,000 deals, it's going to be hard to make a living in this business. I typically played in the space anywhere from like $30,000 to $250,000. So you want to look at the size of the transactions, the average size of the transactions. I wanted to know how crowded the space was. I know if you've seen some of my other videos, I always use construction as an example. It's probably not the best niche to use as an example, because every guy and girl that starts an equipment finance company decides they want to go after construction. Well, it's a very crowded space, and there's a reason for that, because there's a ton of business going on in that area, and the transaction sizes are good, the credits are good, which is the third thing that you should look at. Like if you're going after, and I kind of know I'm going off the path here, but the credit quality is another thing that you should look at when you're looking at niches. The credit quality, and I'm going to come back to my famous example of restaurant deals. A lot of people say they want to become known as the go-to guy when it comes to restaurant equipment finance. And you know what? You could go after that, and the way you would be successful is if you found some kind of niche funding source that they really love doing restaurants, and they kind of figured that business out. But in most cases, especially if you're doing local business and you're using local and regional banks to fund your business, restaurants aren't going to be a good niche, because banks just don't like restaurants. I mean, I just know it from years and years of experience, because they go out of business all the time. They immediately have a big kind of X through them when it comes to credit. So ticket size, how crowded the space is it highly competitive, and what's the credit quality would probably be 3 main criteria. Now, when you're in this initial stage of starting your business, like I said, you're going to be a generalist. You're going to be trying different things. You're going to kind of have to figure it out, and you're going to start thinking about what niche makes sense to you. Let's go to 15. Learn intimately the products that are more prone for your niche. So, for instance, if you're really delving into equipment finance and you're starting to understand about equipment leasing, because most of the equipment finance out there is going to be leases, and you plan on doing commercial real estate deals, that's not going to be a good fit. What I'm telling you is that if you start kind of keying keying in on one area, kind of learn that product is, very intimately, know it the best you can. And then if a commercial real estate deal comes, don't pass it by, but you'll kind of know about it a little bit. And you'll be able to, when you're getting credit packages, they're very similar in both niches. But what I'm telling you is, if you're going after equipment deals, understand equipment leasing and start to get very intimate with the knowledge in that area. Okay, let's move on to number 16. You need to learn how to run TVM calculation, and what TVM stands for is time value of money. The nice thing about this business is that you are going to be using that same calculation over and over. About 95, maybe even 99% of the calculations you run will be a TVM calculation. So you learn it once. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes to learn. It's kind of cool. The nice thing about it is you can use it in other parts of your life. If you're going out to buy a car, you're going out to get a mortgage, you'll start seeing how the banks come up with the monthly payment. And it's done using, I've used a financial calculator pretty much my entire professional life. Just recently, I downloaded an app on my phone, which was wonderful as well. It works just the same way. So very inexpensive, but it's something you need to learn. You got to spend 10, 15 minutes, learn it, get it done, and then you'll be able to price your deals and do everything else you need to do as far as the finance end of this business. Lastly, learn how to price deals. Pricing a deal is kind of an art more than a science. One of the things that you'll find is that in equipment finance, you're able to get much greater spreads. In equipment finance, typically the bank is paying you without the customer ever knowing what your fee is. Commercial real estate deals, typically the transaction is between you and the borrower, so you're going to have a fee agreement in place. As a standard rule of thumb, if you're just doing permanent loans, which are like the traditional 20-year amortization loans for, say, an office building or a multi-family apartment building, typically the commission on that, my starting point was 1%. Now, where that changes is when a deal has been worked real hard. So a lot of times as a broker, when you get better at it, when a deal comes to you, you're going to subtly ask the borrower or the referral source, who has seen this deal? And if the deal has been seen by 8 banks already and 4 brokers, first of all, you might not want to work on the deal at all because, I never considered myself a miracle worker. But if the deal was only sought maybe by a bank, then that all affects on how you price the deal. If you know the deal is going to be much more difficult to get done in the beginning, then you're going to price your commissions higher. And I get into that a little bit as well with kind of tiering off your commission levels so it makes sense for you to charge the right amount. So with that said, I'm going to shrink this down if I can. Get this all on the screen here. So what I've covered today is kind of what I'm going to cover in all 4 videos. But beyond that, if you take a look at this area here, the foundation of the business, getting the right mindset, some of the educational requirements that you'll need, which aren't much. I mean, that part of the business is not that terribly hard, so don't get freaked out by it. The last thing is, if you have any questions about what I went over today, please leave them in the comments below, or you can email me. However, I want to help you any way that I can to get you started in the business. But please leave your comments or questions down below. I'm sure other people will have the same kind of questions if you have them, and I would appreciate kind of getting that back and forth with you. In the next video, I'm going to go through right here, this area here. So that's video number 2. And this is where we'll start really getting into the business, the how to find a deal. And once you find a deal, how to package it and how to start getting a full pipeline of business so you can start earning commissions. And once again, it all comes back down to, earning the type of money that you want to earn. How big does your pipeline have to be? And then the second thing is, lifestyle. Like, one of the reasons I've always loved this business, it's because you kind of had freedom in your day to do what you wanted to do. In fact, when I had a very robust pipeline, I would come in the morning, I would kind of crank out all the things I needed to do with the banks that I was dealing with the various banks that my deals were out at. And a lot of times I was able to play golf 2-3 times a week. I'm not recommending that, and I'm not telling you that in the beginning, because I worked very hard for years before I got to that point. But just want to let you know, it is a business that you can earn great commissions and you can get that lifestyle. So once again, getting back to that, in the next video, and I hope you'll join me, I'm going to teach you how to find deals, how to package deals, and then finally in the third and fourth video, I'm going to third video, I'm going to show you how to start looking at what funding source to send it to and why you'd pick one funding source over another, and what it's like to hit a home run in this business. A couple things you should be mindful of while you're out there, because they might come to you early in the game. Hopefully they will, and take your business to a whole nother level. And then the fourth video, I'm kind of just going to wrap everything up and bring everything together and let you know about some additional training resources that I know about. So there you have it. Thanks for joining me. Once again, leave your comments and questions down below. I appreciate you joining me. Buzz Glover here from BizLoanConsultants.com. See you next time.